Hi everyone. So I've been wanting to do this forever and I'm not prepared at all right now. So I'm just going to speak as things come to my mind. So my channel's title is going to be Explaining Existence. That may sound a pretty heavy task to undertake. However, it's not at all as difficult or as complicated or as heavy as it sounds. As a matter of fact, it's very, very easy. So I'll just say that I'll tell you a little bit about myself first. So my name is Shariar, and my education is that I have two Bachelor of Science degrees, one in molecular biology and microbiology, the other one in philosophy, a master's degree, Master of Arts in applied economics, and a PhD, which is a Doctor of Philosophy in humanities. So that's just to let you know that those are my academic credentials. And so to talk about existence and explaining it. So any human being, whether they want to or not, they at some point in their life, if they think about their own existence and everything that exists, they are faced with the question, how did this all come about? Where does it come from? What is the purpose? What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to live our lives? And those seem like they were hard questions, but they really aren't at all. So I'll just start with how to answer how did this all come about? Well, the first question to answer there is there a creator? Well, there are two ways that humans find out anything. So anything that we know as humans and anything that has ever been known by any human, it doesn't matter how uneducated they were, how smart they were, how intelligent they were, how intellectual, what a genius they were, it doesn't matter, or they are or they will be. They have learned it in two ways, one of two ways or both. One is by experiencing it themselves. The other is by reasoning. So if we learn something by experience, then our conclusion about that experience is called induction. We induce something about the world. For example, how do we know the sun is going to come up tomorrow? Well, we don't reason through it. We know it's going to come up with near 100% certainty, like 99.99999 and a bunch of 9%, because it has always come up. It has always come up since we have been alive, since our fathers and mothers and ancestors been alive on this earth. The sun has always come up in the morning. So that's by induction. We induce that the sun will come up tomorrow. It is not through logical reasoning. So we have experienced it. every human, our ancestors have experienced it. So that's how we know the sun is going to come up. Now, an example of how we learn through reasoning. If I tell you that Bob is taller than Mary and Mary is taller than Betty, well, you know Bob is taller than Betty. That's through logical reasoning. You haven't seen Bob, Mary, or Betty. That's all you need to know, that Bob is taller than Mary and Mary is taller than Betty. So therefore you know Bob is taller than Betty. How did we do that? By logical reasoning, by rationality. That is called deduction. We deduced it. Those are the only two ways we learn anything about our environment, our existence, about anything that we know. For example, Einstein, he learned everything that he knew in one or most likely both of these ways. Actually, almost certainly both of these ways, induction and deduction. I have learned everything I know, either by induction or deduction. You have learned everything that you know, everything, either by induction or deduction. So, to conclude from that, from now we have concluded that in either induction or deduction. So then, now here's the next point. From the time that we really know who we are, meaning we really start learning things, we understand things about our existence. Let's say for some of us it's about 2 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, it depends on the person. 5 years old, whatever, 10 years old, it doesn't matter. From that time until we die. So from this starting point is when we start understanding things. And the end point is when we stop understanding things, understanding meaning sensing things by one of our 5 senses: seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and smelling. I'm being very conservative here because a lot of people say, oh, we have intuition, we have telepathy, and yes, we do. Of course we do. But I'm just going to say conservative. I'll bring those things in hopefully later. So the 5 senses, when we start knowing what we are sensing, we start understanding what we are sensing, however many years old we are, or however many months old we are, then we start concluding things about what we are sensing until we stop sensing things, which, let's say if we die a natural death, most people die on a deathbed. So, or, somewhere, and they say hearing is the last sense that goes. Maybe it's smelling, but based on what I've heard, it's hearing. So from that starting point and that end point, the question is, do we ever see anything that humans make, such as tables, all the gadgets and merchandise and products that humans make, TVs, cars, tables, cups, plates, boxes, homes? There's millions of things, right? Maybe billions of things that humans make. Shirts, the shirt that I'm wearing, right? The glasses that I'm wearing, anything that humans make. Now remember, humans have to make it. do we ever see from the time that we start understanding things till the time that we stop understanding things, do we ever see any of these things that humans make to just appear without a human making it? Like, for example, does any human ever see a table just appearing in front of them? Or a home, or a TV, or a pair of glasses, or a pair of pants, or a pair of socks, or anything, a book, just appear without it having a human maker? The answer to that is a resounding no. Never, ever. And if someone says, yes, I've seen a house appear out of nowhere. I didn't see any it appeared in a second. No construction workers, no carpenters, no blacksmiths, no painters, no nothing. The house appeared. Wouldn't you doubt that person's sanity if they really meant it seriously? Wouldn't you really doubt that, hey, this guy or this woman is crazy? Right? We are that certain that nothing that humans make just comes into existence without a human having made it. So, if we extrapolate from that and say, oh, we live in a world that, as far as our human experience goes, nothing that we make ever comes into existence without a human making it. So that's a characteristic of things that we make. And what do we make things out of? From things that already are there. Like wood. Where does wood come from? Trees. We didn't make the trees. We can plant trees, or we can plant a seed that becomes a tree, but we didn't make that seed. Or we didn't make iron. Iron is in the earth. We extract it from the earth and we purify it or whatever. Sometimes we make it into steel, and then we make things from it. But we did not make that iron, or we did not make any kind of metal. The metals are there. Everything is in or on the earth. The air is already there. We make hydrogen products from it, oxygen products from it, nitrogen products from it, from the gases that are in the air, and from the plants, and from the animals. The animals are there. We did not make cows or pigs or anything else. We just, those who eat meat, okay, somebody slaughters a cow and then they process it, and then people make steaks or kebabs or whatever. And so, but it's already there. But when we make things from things that are already there, nothing that we make comes into existence without us making it. So isn't it reasonable to say that, hey, these things that we make things from also did not come into existence just on their own? It's a reasonable conclusion. Of course, we cannot be 100% certain, because we were not here when cows came into existence, or when the first tree came into existence, or the first cell that all living things are made out of, right? Came into existence. We were not here. Humans were not here when the first stone came into existence. Stone is not living, but it's made up of atoms and molecules. We were not here. We don't know for sure, 100%, how all these things came into existence, right? But we are extrapolating, meaning that we see that nothing that humans make come into existence without a human making it. And we make things from things that were already here. So, therefore, those things that were already here, they most likely have the same characteristic that things that we make from them, meaning that they did not come into existence on their own without a maker, because we are the maker of things that we make from the things that were already here. None of those things that we make come into existence without us making them, so therefore things that were already here, most likely, if I had to guess a percentage, I would say 95% for me, but definitely above 50% for any rational, sane person. Those things that were already here did not come into existence without their maker. That's called deduction, right? So it's a product of induction, actually, and deduction. Because what part of it is induction? The part that we don't see things that we make come into existence without us making them. That part is induction. For example, the universe could have been constructed in such a way that when I woke up in the morning, all of a sudden I would see just a table in my living room that wasn't there before. And nobody has delivered it, nobody has made it, it's just there. Or I would see a TV there, or anything, a pair of glasses there, right? A shirt, whatever. Anything that's in my house, or anything that I would all of a sudden see that my car is different. There's a new car and it's mine. And nobody ever made it. It would just appear. Do we ever see that? No. But it could be that the universe could have been constructed that way, but we never see that. That's induction, because it's things that we take in through our five senses, things that we experience. That part of what I just told you is induction. We induce that, hey, nothing, tomorrow when I wake up, can I be reasonably sure that there's not going to be a new table that nobody made in my living room? Yes, because nobody has ever seen that before, nor have I. So I'm reasonably sure, 99.9%, that I'm not going to see a table or a book or a pair of glasses or a pair of pants, a pair of socks, whatever, in my living room or anywhere that just appeared. Okay, now what part of what I said is deduction? The extrapolation part. Extrapolating means you make a reasonable conclusion with a reasonable degree of certainty from what you have seen and experienced and know to what you haven't seen and experienced and know. But it doesn't mean we are just dumbfounded. We use our brain and we make reasonable conclusions with a reasonable degree of certainty, which is pretty good enough for me. As a matter of fact, we make a lot of extrapolations throughout the day. Like, for example, when you step out of your house, are you sure you're not going to get into a car accident? Are you positive? Of course not. I'm not either. Are you sure you're not going to get sick from somebody, when you're in a store or when you're out and about? Of course not. Are you sure when you leave your house is not going to get burglarized? Of course not. We hope none of those things happen. Now, how do we know that? Because we are kind of sure, because we extrapolate based on the fact that those kind of things happen very rarely. We extrapolate that they won't happen most likely. We are reasonably sure enough that we go about our day without worrying constantly about those things. As a matter of fact, if people are constantly worried about those things, we kind of conclude that they have some kind of mental abnormality. if they are so worried that it interferes with the progression of their lives. So all of us, nobody's 100% sure about any of those things. By the same token, I'm not sure that I'm not going to find $10 billion tomorrow. Is it possible? Yes. But am I likely? No. How sure am I? 99.9%. Maybe 99.9999%, maybe 98%. I don't split hairs. You might be sure about 95%. Whatever. You are sure enough, and every human on this planet is sure enough that they go to work, they live their life, because these outlier things, extremely exceptional things, don't happen to almost anyone. A very small percentage of people hit the lottery. A very small percentage of people get into car accidents, or really, really, really exceptional things happen to them. The rest of us go about our days because those things don't happen to us. So my point is that we make extrapolations. We conclude things with reasonable degrees of certainty. And we can do the same here. Because nothing that humans make don't just appear in front of us. That's the universe that we live in. We have to observe it. I didn't make the universe. You did not make the universe. We just have to observe the reality of it. Like I said, we could be living in a universe that things just appear, things that we make. But we don't. That's just a reality. So therefore, since things that we make, we humans make, do not appear randomly and haphazardly and out of nowhere without a human making it, therefore we can conclude that the things that we make from, the things that from which we make things that we make, also have this attribute, this characteristic, that they did not come from nowhere. They also had a maker. It is much more likely that they also did not come from nowhere, and they had a maker, because they lend or they pass on this attribute, this characteristic, to the things that we make from them. I hope I have made myself clear. That's the first point in explaining existence. That this universe, whatever you want to call it, universe, multiverse, biverse, triverse, whatever. I don't get into names very rarely. Universe means, uni means one, verse means verse. I don't know, it means lyrics, verse, or I don't know in this sense, to be honest, what it means. But it's really, I'll look it up after I'm done with this video, but it means one something. So, now in common vernacular, common language, verse means like, the verses to a song or the lyrics to a song. That's what it means. So, one lyric, one written way, one whatever. So some people say there's a parallel universe, there's a bi-universe, multiverse. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The point is, whatever that exists, whatever you want to call it, did not come from nowhere, did not come from anywhere. It has a maker, because of the reason that I just explained. And no, I'm not 100% sure, nor can you be, nor can anyone be. But based on what we see and what we observe, based on induction, and we can deduce that this, just by logic, this is not about religion, just by induction and deduction, we can conclude that the things that were already there before humans even came about, such as trees, stones, mountains, earth, animals, which 95% of them, about 95% of them, or some people say even higher, are already extinct. So what we see is just 5%. Just 5% of all the animals that we see in land, sea, and air. Okay? So that everything that was here before we even came about, also had a maker. Now, whatever you want to call that maker, again, that's naming things. As we will see later, I call that maker a god. You can call it something else, as long as it's not impolite. I don't like disrespectfulness or impoliteness or bad manners. So, of course, we all make mistakes sometimes, but as a general rule, we need to be respectful and polite and have good manners. So, the word, whatever exists, has a maker. So this business of atheism, meaning no maker, that belief is irrational, because those people everything that we see points to that there is a maker based on what I said. If we did see things that humans make appear out of nowhere, then I would be the first one to conclude that things that we make them from also could have come out of nowhere. Sure. I would definitely go along with the no maker belief. Sure, but we don't see that. That's just science. Science is based on basing our beliefs, what we believe, based on what we see and deduce, based on what we induce, which is our five senses, and deduce, which is our reasoning. And I just concluded for you that in all likelihood, with most probability, everything that we make things from also has a maker. That is not an opinion. It has become a factual conclusion. Facts are, that's how facts are. For example, if you see something is red, that's a fact. That's induction. You just see it. You induce that that's red. Okay, it's red, it's a fact. Right? Okay. So, if you see that when a car hits a tree, if it's a huge tree, the tree doesn't go anywhere, almost never, but the car gets super damaged, right? Assuming that it's not a huge truck or anything, right? It's just a car. Even trucks, when they hit trees, if it's a huge tree, the tree doesn't go anywhere. Or it gets, the wood gets damaged, but the car gets way more damaged, right? And the person that's driving that car gets seriously hurt. So what do we induce from that? Well, we see that. First we see it and we induce that, hey, the car is damaged and the tree is very minorly damaged, if damaged at all. But then we deduce that, don't do that. That's not a good thing to do. We induce that any car, if they hit a huge tree, a huge, thick, robust tree, it's not going to be good for the car. The car is going to be the loser in that scenario. So we deduce that. So that becomes a fact. That's a fact. We are very certain of that. We hear about it every day. We hear that so-and-so, hit a tree and they were horrendously injured, or unfortunately they died. So that's just a fact of life. So we know that. It's a fact. So we use our induction and our deduction, just like I said, everything that we learn ever, it counts by one or both of those methods, induction and deduction. So just now, through induction and deduction, I concluded that most likely, and here's another thing, almost nothing is 0 or 100% in this physical world. So our knowledge is almost never 0 or 100%. So I'm uncomfortable with saying never, ever, almost. I mean, never, ever, at all, or always. No, just about everything that we know. When I say just about, I mean, like in this case, I mean 99.9999% of things that we know are between 0 and 100%. So with what I just now demonstrated through induction and deduction is that with a reasonable degree of certainty, for me, that constitutes 97-98%. That things that we make things from have a maker. That's the first step to explaining existence. And everything else builds on that. So everything else builds on that. You cannot have a reasonable understanding of existence. And when I say existence, I mean everything that exists. The stars in the sky, to the bacteria on Earth, the bacteria on your skin, us, animals, trees, planets, comets, stars, molecules, atoms, electrons, neutrons, protons, quarks, strings, everything that exists, our feelings, our dreams, everything that exists, that's existence. When I use the word existence, that's what I mean. So explaining existence, you cannot have a reasonable explanation for existence without the starting point being, where did everything come from? Well, it came from a maker with comfortable degree of certainty, reasonable degree of certainty. It came from a maker. That's where it came from. It did not come from nothing. Again, with a reasonable degree of certainty, for me, that's 97.